Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the John Campea Show, the weekend edition here on Saturdays. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an honor and a privilege, as it is every day, to have you guys joining me here as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and TV and all that kind of good stuff. And it is the weekend shows. We're a little bit more laid back around here on the weekends, a little bit more casual. But we do have a whole bunch of stuff to talk about here today. So without any further ado, let's jump into it. And the first question today comes to us from one of my Patreon supporters, Justin Lee, who writes, just wanted to back up your point on why we need more context when seeing leaked photos. Can you imagine how people would have reacted if these photos, and we'll get to these photos in a second, of Captain America leaked, but the context in the film made sense and we got a fantastic suit by the end of the film? Okay, so one of the things that Justin Lee is talking about here is that one of the things we're constantly talking about here on the John Campea Show and on my videos is that when these leaked pictures from a set come out, well, of course, we all remember Scoot McNairy's green leggings leaked pictures from the set of Batman vs. Superman, and everybody went, oh, he's the Flash. It's confirmed he's the Flash. Why is he the Flash? Because he's got green screen on his legs. That means he's going to be the Flash. And everybody jumped to conclusions when we didn't have a context for it. Much like we're seeing like some behind-the-scenes pictures right now of Shazam, or we recently saw some behind-the-scenes out-of-context pictures of Carol Danvers in the upcoming Captain Marvel. I mean, and what I'm constantly trying to say is like, look, we got to be careful not to jump to anything when we see these photos, especially unauthorized photos from behind the scenes on set, of out of context, when we don't know what is the context of this picture, because that changes everything. So what Justin did was he sent in a couple of pictures and he's saying, imagine if these pictures of Captain America got leaked before the movie came out. Let's say somebody was on set and snapped a couple of pictures of Chris Evans in this costume for Captain America and leaked those pictures online. Can you imagine the feedback and the backlash that would have got? People go, oh my God, they totally ruined the Captain America look and blah, 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 blah. It's like, relax. It's out of context. We don't know. I got to see that picture again because this costume just... Can you imagine if the Infinity War trailer just dropped and Chris Evans is wearing that costume in the Infinity War trailer? Imagine the reaction people would have got. But anyway, but again, if these pictures leaked, later when we saw the movie, we would have seen that picture in context and understood, oh, that's why he's wearing that costume in that setting, in that context in this movie. Now it makes sense. And look, and that's why I say every time these, Captain Marvel picture gets leaked or Shazam picture gets leaked or a leak from any movie, I always say, don't get too excited or don't get too negative. Don't get too worked up either way because we don't know the context of the photo. And Justin Lee just gave us a great example of that. Imagine if that was the picture that got leaked out of Captain America. Out of context, we would have formed all these different opinions and theories about it when it was no point to it because we didn't know the context. And in context, it makes a lot more sense. All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, Justin. All right, the next topic comes to us from Skix, who writes, hey, John, Ava DuVernay is officially directing New Guy. I don't think that's official as a matter. Let's be clear about that. I think she's still in negotiations. I think it's pretty much just a formality at this point, but I do not think it is official that she's directing it yet. So just let's put a break on that just for a second. But it does look like she's going to do it. A movie in the DCEU. Well, again, not so sure. Like one news outlet is saying New Gods will be in the DCEU, but about 4 or 5 other outlets are saying it's not going to be in the DCEU. So let's just wait and again, let's put a pin in that for now. So let's not assume she is not officially directing it, nor do we know that this is going to be in the DCEU because a lot of news outlets are saying it's not, but we'll find out for sure soon enough. Anyway, what are your thoughts? Doesn't it seem fishy that Warner Brothers would hire her right after the flop of her film, A Wrinkle in Time? I think she could still pull it off. What are the chances that this will actually happen? All right, thanks a lot for the question, Skix. And here's the thing. With a lot of people are talking right now, first of all, let's say she does go ahead and direct The New Gods. And let's assume that, for the sake of this discussion, let's assume that she is going to be signed, booked, sealed, delivered, made official, okay? Let's, for that point, do that. The question becomes, why would Warner Brothers hire a director like Ava DuVernay whose film right now is crashing and burning in the box office. Like, it's a plus $100 million film. I don't know that it's cleared $60 million. And this movie's going to have to clear about $350 million, maybe even $400 million, depending on what the actual budget is. All we know about the budget of the film is that it's north of $100 million. That's all I know for official point. So you're probably guessing this movie needs to come in around $350 million worldwide to break even. Maybe 400, depending on what the actual production number is. And so this movie is crashing and burning. I mean, it is. Financially, it's crashing and burning. It's also not getting a lot of love from the critics. The critics are, like, the last time I checked, let me pull up a number right now. Let's see. Wrinkle in Time. Let me see what the critic rating right now on Wrinkle in Time. Last I checked, it was 44%. It's dropped down to 40. So it's it's a rotten rating on Rotten Tomatoes. It's got a 40%. That means 6 out of every 10 film critics don't like the film. So it's not doing great critically. It's certainly not doing well financially. So the question is, and I'm hearing a lot of people ask this question, and it's a fair question to ask. Okay, it's a fair question. Considering that she's got a big budget film in theaters right now that is flopping for all intents and purposes, why now would Warner Brothers want to step up and hire a director whose big budget film right now is flopping? It's totally a fair question to ask. I get it. But I think, again, you have to take a step back and look at the big picture. And the big picture is this. This was Disney's film, all right? And Disney was making Wrinkle in Time. They were making it. They just had to go out and choose a director, and they chose Ava DuVernay. They already had a script. It's a script written by one of the co-directors and screenwriters of Frozen. So they got the screenwriter from Frozen to write the script for it. They were moving ahead with the movie, and then they brought in Ava DuVernay to direct. Now, look, I have never read the book A Wrinkle in Time. But all the reports and all the stories we read about before the movie ever came out was like, how are they going to do this movie? This is one of those unfilmable books. Like, how do you make this into a narrative visual story in just 2 hours and tell it in a coherent way? It's going to be really challenging. And I never read the book, so I had no idea about that, but that's just what we heard all over the place. It's like, okay, fine. So she comes out and she directs the movie. Number one, I never thought that A Wrinkle in Time was a movie that was going to have a lot of mass appeal. I remember talking about that like over a year ago when we were talking about this movie. I said, I just don't know how much appeal. I mean, this is a great hire getting Ava DuVernay to direct it. It's a great hire, but I just don't know. I remember said over a year ago that if this is something that's going to have wide appeal. At any rate, they make the movie. And after watching it, I mean, one of the things, I remember Ann and I came out, and I didn't particularly like Wrinkle in Time. I didn't think it sucked, but I didn't think it was all that good. I give it a negative review. But I remember saying to Ann, seeing what that story contains, I don't know if you hired 100 different directors and made that movie 100 different times with 100 different directors, I don't know if 4 or 5 of them would end up being better than the one Ava DuVernay just made. I mean, I think the one Ava DuVernay just made was probably in the top 90, 95%. In other words, I don't know that another director could have done this movie much better. That's the thing. I just don't know that another director could have done much better with the material that they had. I think she did almost as good of a job. Probably maybe a couple of other directors with some different points of view may have come in and done a little bit of a better job, but not many. And I think Warner Brothers is smart enough and has the foresight enough to understand that. Warner Brothers knows, hey, yeah, that was a very difficult, big challenge that Ava DuVernay took on with this movie that Disney was making. The script was already done. She stepped in, and she probably, as a director, carried that film as far as it could go. Maybe a few other directors might have been able to do a little bit better, but not many. And I think Warner Brothers is smart enough to recognize that. Warner Brothers is smart enough to not go, oh, whatever the box office totals is, that's a reflection of how good or bad the director is. They're smart enough, and they've been in this business long enough, and the executives there know well enough that that's not an indication of how good of a director she is. The question becomes, Could 1,000 other directors have done a better job than her? Or could only 4 or 5 other directors maybe done a better job than her? And if the answer is the latter, then you've got a pretty damn good director on your hand. Also, take another step further back and look at the bigger context. The film she directed, everybody seems to be forgetting this. The film that Ava DuVernay directed before Wrinkle in Time, she just happened to direct it to a Best Picture nomination at the Academy Awards. And she directed it to winning the AFI Film of the Year, one of the films of the year for the American Film Institute that year. The film won an Academy Award. Selma is a ridiculously good film. And when you look at all the performances in the film, that's the number one job of the director, is to get the best performances that you can out of your actors. She got an amazing performance out of her cast, including David Oyelowo, who just did amazing in that movie. He's in The Gringo right now. So yeah, I just think there's a lot here we have to take into consideration when wondering, why would Warner Brothers hire her right now? Well, because she's the director who directed the multi-nominated, including Best Picture nominated film Selma. And then she stepped into A Wrinkle in Time and probably did as good of a job as almost anybody else could have done. And Warner Brothers is smart enough to recognize that. Now, whether she's the best fit for a New Gods film, I have no idea. That I don't know. That is something completely beyond my scope of knowledge and your scope of knowledge. But clearly they know she can tell a great narrative. She can develop characters beautifully. She was able to capture, one of the things I said that was positive for me about Wrinkle in Time was visually it just looked, wow, like it's, the scope of it and everything just looked breathtaking. And I did enjoy that part of Wrinkle in Time. But yeah, so ultimately, if you're asking the question, why would they hire Ava DuVernay? Because she's a great director. And even though Wrinkle did not perform well and didn't turn out to be all that great of a movie, I think Warner Brothers recognizes that she probably did about as good of a job as almost any director could have done with that property. And if that's the case, then she's a steal. Then she is a win. Nabbing her to direct one of your films, whether it's in the DCEU or not, that's a win. In my books, at any rate. I think Warner Brothers has snatched up a really good director here, and I think good on them. Look, I still don't have a lot of confidence in that they know what they're doing with their DCEU at this point, but adding talent is never a bad idea, and them snatching up Ava DuVernay, I think is a win for them. All right, let's move on now to the next topic. And the next topic today comes to us from We All Got It. And We All Got It writes, I just saw a couple of articles where the Russo brothers said that they collaborated with James Gunn, Ryan Coogler, Taika Waititi, and Peyton Reed while working on Infinity War. I just think that is such a great way to ensure that they get all the storylines for each main hero on point for the huge movie. Have you ever seen precedents for this? Well, yes, on a smaller scale, we've seen precedents for this, where there have been franchises or sequels where directors will sit down with previous directors or even upcoming directors of next installment. Never on this scale. For sure, never on this scale, but we have seen precedents for this before on a much smaller scale. And it's just common sense. It's just common sense. And this is all attributed to Kevin Feige. Because Kevin Feige keeps a tight rein on this ship. Kevin Feige is the guy who makes sure that the MCU is always heading in the same direction as all the other movies. They're all heading in the same direction together. They all understand where each other's going. They all understand what's going to happen to my character that in that movie that I'm not directing. And that director's going, okay, I need to make sure I fully understand this character in my movie and where Kevin wants to take this character in the next movie. So I need to collaborate with the director of the next movie to make sure they're all together. And this problem, look, Taika Waititi and Peyton Reed and all these guys weren't on set of Infinity War every day, but they probably had 2 or 3 or 4 sit-down meetings in Kevin Feige's office that Kevin chaired and just make sure everything is on the same page. So there's a great coherent consistency, tone-wise, story-wise, and character-wise within all the films of the MCU. It's just common sense. It's something that we haven't seen happen in the DCEU. It's really stark that, Warner Brothers, and this sounds great on paper. It sounds great on paper to say when Warner Brothers, I remember years ago saying, we want to be a director's studio. And they are. Warner Brothers is very much a director's studio. Unfortunately, that philosophy doesn't really work when you're trying to create a shared cinematic universe. Because they just have this philosophy, we're going to just let our directors do what they want to do. We're just going to let them do what they want to do. But that creates for an uneven, bumpy, disjointed cinematic universe where you're changing tones from film to film, and it just it never feels like it's all connected into each other. Now, I've enjoyed all the DCEU films, you know that, but as a coherent, put together, shared cinematic universe, it has not nearly felt as smooth as like the MCU has. And Kevin Feige being at the head of the ship, making sure everybody, all the directors are following his vision. Kevin Feige works, I remember talking to James Gunn, and James Gunn mentioning that, Kevin is great. He sets out the parameters early on. He goes, look, we've got to do this in the Guardians movie. We got to do this. We got to end up with this, and we got to end up with this. Now, within these walls, you do what you want to do, man. You be as creative. You come up with how you want to accomplish it, blah, blah, blah. You go. Now, everything's still got to cross Kevin's desk, sure, but James Gunn lays out this great, it's early Saturday morning, lays out this great example for me that Kevin lays out, okay, here's the boundaries that we're setting up. Now you use the full extent of your creativity within these parameters and go. And by doing that, they've been able to make sure that the directors have been able to put their individual thumbprints on their MCU films, while at the same time maintaining a consistent tone and style throughout, ensuring the success of the MCU. And again, it all comes back to Kevin Feige. All right, let's move on to the fourth question today. And the fourth question comes to us from another one of our Patreon supporters, Ben Rayner. And Ben Rayner writes, I was wondering, do you remember at the start of Fellowship of the Ring, it flashes back to Bilbo finding the ring? Do you think they will ever do a special edition and put Martin Freeman in there instead of Ian Holm? Because now, with The Hobbit, we've seen Martin in that scene. Curious to hear your thoughts on this. All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And no, I don't see them pulling a George Lucas Star Wars special edition on The Lord of the Rings. In Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, it's Ian Holm. That's who it is. No need to go back and change history. Yes, Martin Freeman becomes Bilbo Baggins and was great as Bilbo Baggins, but you don't need to pull a George Lucas Star Wars special edition. And I worship at the altar of George Lucas. Everybody knows this, but you don't need to pull a George Lucas and switch out the actors now to fit in what the later thing is. There's no need to do that. I think they've seen the backlash that sort of thing has received, particularly in the Star Wars universe. There's no need to do it. There's no basis to do it. There's just no good argument to make for doing it. Don't change the movie. That's the movie we remember. And that's what it is. And we're smart enough to know that as we get into the Hobbit movies, that it's a different actor now. We're smart enough to understand that. It won't confuse us. We're okay. But yeah, I think just once again, that the example, the parable, if you will, of Star Wars, the special editions, is a lesson that they've learned. I think it's a lesson everybody's learned. And there's no there's no upside. The only thing that can happen if you do that is negative backlash. That's the only thing that can happen. There is no potential good side to this, only potential negative side. Not that everybody would backlash against it, but there's a potential for it. But what are you going to do? You're going to say, hey guys, we're putting out another edition of Fellowship of the Ring, and we've digitally removed Ian Holm from one of the scenes and put in Martin Freeman. And now 300,000 people are going to run out and rush. I don't see that happening. So there's no upside to doing it, but there is potential downside to do it. So I just don't see why they would. But I don't know. Maybe you guys feel totally different. Would you like seeing, Fellowship of the Ring with that scene in particular, with a digitally removed one actor and swapped out for another? Maybe you would. Maybe you think that would be cool. Jump down in the comment section. Let me know what you think and why. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts. All right. And now we go on to the last email question of the day, and then we'll go over to your live questions. I see a whole ton of you guys have been sending in live questions. And over in our live questions, over in our last email question of the day, from Patreon supporter Chris Mueller writes, proud Patreon supporter from South Africa here. Thank you so much, Chris. It's good to have you on. So how awesome is that new Infinity War trailer? A perfect second trailer, in my opinion. Showed us more cool scenes, but not telling us much. I also love the parallel of the first seeing Thanos up against Iron Man and then going toe-to-toe with Captain America on a different occasion. Star-Lord / Iron Man and Spider-Man / Doctor Strange interactions were brilliant. The hype level has definitely gone up a lot. And man, we spent a lot of time yesterday talking about the Avengers Infinity War trailer, except I never put up my reaction video because YouTube, 2 seconds after my reaction video uploaded, YouTube slapped me with a, this video is blocked for copyright content infringement. And I don't know what caused it. It was clearly an algorithm that did it. But I'm starting to wonder if, I don't know, maybe my screen with the trailer itself was too large. Maybe it needed to be smaller. I don't know. I'll figure it out. It's probably my own fault, to be honest with you. But why YouTube algorithms do what they do is always a mystery to me. Anyway, we talked a lot about the Infinity War trailer yesterday, and for good reason. We're probably going to be talking about it for the next 2 or 3 weeks. But it was absolutely 100% breathtaking. It was just a beautifully done trailer. I'm not super thrilled with the poster, to be honest with you. The whole modern idea of, hey, let's do a poster and put every single character in the movie on the poster. I'm not a fan of that style, but whatever. It's just a poster. The trailer was freaking brilliant. And I love how you pointed out, Chris, that it's a perfect second trailer. And it is. In that context, as a second trailer, it's perfect. Because it built on what the first trailer is just kind of an announcement, right? It's letting the world know. Here's a little taste and letting the world know this is what's coming. And it was a great first trailer. This as a second trailer builds on that. And it does something that I talked about a lot yesterday, which is it answers a couple of the questions. One of my big ones is give us a glimpse of what Thanos' motivation is. And this trailer gives us some insight into Thanos' motivation. And I thought that was wonderful. I thought, give us an idea how big of a scope will the action be? And I think they showed us some glimpses about how big of a scope the action will be. But not only did it answer a couple of questions, it does what a good second trailer should do in that it raises more questions. How the hell does Cap stop Thanos' fist and hand like that? That was my favorite scene of the movie. How does Doctor Strange get in, that situation where he's being tortured? How did he get into that situation? How long has it been since Captain America has been in Wakanda? Because Captain America, we see him getting off the Quinjet, walking up and shaking T'Challa's hand as if they haven't seen each other for a while. So it answers some questions and it raises some more questions without ever giving too much away, giving us little dashes of good humor like the Star-Lord and Spider-Man with Doctor Strange scenes, giving us good senses of ominous dread, like he can wipe out half the universe like that. The Doctor Strange torture scene, which was chilling, just bone chilling. It did all those things and more. And I'm getting hyped just thinking about the trailer again. It was so spectacular. And we'll talk about this on the show tomorrow, but it broke Fandango's advanced ticket sales record in just 6 hours. It broke the advanced ticket sales for a superhero movie record in just 6 hours, a record that was just shortly held by Black Panther. So clearly the response was great. Their whole strategy of launch the trailer at the same time that we launched the advanced ticket sales, genius. Absolutely genius to do, and clearly that marketing strategy worked. Just a fantastic trailer we've been talking about. We will probably be continuing to talk about it. All right, guys, with all that out of the way, let's go over to some of your live questions today. And we're going to start things off with Phil Lee, who writes, Hawkeye Secret Mission. Yeah, for those who don't know, they've been talking a little bit how Hawkeye has his own side secret mission in the movie. What it is, we have no idea. Hawkeye Secret Mission. Track down old S.H.I.E.L.D. teammate Carol Danvers. Hawkeye won't even be a blip on Thanos' radar. You know what, Phil? I have not heard anybody mention that as a theory. I think it's a great theory. I actually think there's a 50-50 chance that you're absolutely dead on the money. That makes perfect sense. That is a theory that fits within the parameters of everything we know so far. It doesn't mean it is true. It may not be true. But I think as far as a theory goes, that is a damn solid theory. Damn solid theory. What do you guys think about that theory? Do you think maybe that's what Hawkeye's doing in this movie? And why they're not showing a lot of him? That his whole side thing is going off finding Carol Danvers? I don't know. Maybe. We'll find out. Good theory, though. Michael Crossan writes, Happy St. Paddy's Day from Belfast. Oh, actually from Belfast. Thank you so much, man. Ever been to Ireland? I have never been to Ireland. I've always wanted to go to Ireland, mostly because my all-time favorite band, U2, is from Ireland, obviously. But I've never had a chance to go. Game of Thrones and The Last Jedi filmed here. In honor of St. Paddy's Day, what is your favorite Irish actor My favorite Irish actor is Colin Farrell. I've said for years that I think Colin Farrell is a highly underrated talent. He's great. I mean, he was in a movie with Tom Hanks, Saving Mr. Banks. It was out just a couple of years ago. And in my opinion, he upstaged Tom Hanks. Not easy to do. I actually was very, very insistent that I thought Colin Farrell deserved an Academy Award nomination for Saving Mr. Banks. He was also brilliant in Bruges. He's got a number of performances that are just incredible. I love this dude. He's probably my favorite one. Maybe if I sat down and thought about it a little bit more, I might be able to come up with a couple of other Irish actors I like more, but Colin Farrell definitely ranks right up there for me. All right. Michael writes again, ever watch Liam Neeson and Michael Collins? Alan Rickman is also in it. About the fight for Irish independence from England, name pronounced Crossan. Okay, Crossan. Yes, I have seen Michael Collins. I like that movie quite a bit. It felt a lot like that other one he did in many ways. It felt like Liam Neeson was in that kind of phase. Remember he did that one where he was the Scottish guy instead. And I'm forgetting the name of that one off the top of my head. But anyway, there's that. And he did Michael Collins. So he's in those types of things. But yeah, I love Michael Collins. I thought Michael Collins was a really solid film. Curtis Lopez writes, what did you think of the controversial ending to Spielberg's film AI? Was it controversial? I don't remember it being controversial. I thought it was clever. I mean, look, it wasn't the happily ever after ending that a lot of people like getting out of their movies. But I thought it was creative and different. I mean, it doesn't leave you on a high note. Like you're not walking out of the theater going, wow, woo, like that. But it's a little bit more somber of an ending. But I liked it. I thought it worked for the movie. Again, I don't remember there being a lot of controversy around it. Maybe I'm not remembering it correctly, but it was just a different kind of an ending, especially for a Hollywood film. Okay. Manuel Fernandez says, hey, John, when will the companion video go up today? Okay, so for those of you who don't know what Manuel's talking about, most days I have to do a companion video because on the John Campea Show and on Open Mic, we have such an active community that so many live questions come in that I rarely have a chance to get through all of them before the show ends. But I have a guarantee that if you send one in, it will get answered. So what I usually do is like the following day, I do a companion video where I take all the live questions that got sent in on the John Campea Show and on Open Mic that didn't get answered and answer them in a special companion video to make sure everybody's questions get answered. So there's probably not going to be a companion video today because it's Saturday. I like to take it a little bit more easy today. I want to take a bit of a break. So probably not going to, because you guys know I work 7 days a week. I put up videos 7 days a week. I'm trying to position myself where maybe I get like one full day off a week. Obviously that's not today because I'm here doing a live show early Saturday morning, but I'm trying to position, but I'm at least trying to take it a little bit easier on weekends, spend some time with my wife, especially because Anne yesterday had LASIK eye surgery. And if you guys don't follow me on social media, let me show you this picture that I posted up. Because Anne's like, oh, John, you just think you're so funny. Yes, I did think this was very funny. Let me show you this picture I put up yesterday. So Anne goes in yesterday to get her LASIK eye surgery done. And we're sitting later on the couch, and she's got to keep her eyes closed, like at least for the first 16 hours, and she's got to wear these sunglasses for a few days. And I'm like, what is she reminding me of? And I put up this post of this. I said, oh yeah. So I put this picture up on Twitter of her and Blind Al. So I call the picture Blind Anne. And I said, hey, I can't even get in trouble for this because she can't even see the picture right now. Although she did see the picture this morning. But anyway, so Anne is still taking it easy today. Because, she's still got the glass. She's got limited mobility right now. Probably she'll be fine by tomorrow for sure. She's been wanting to get this procedure done forever. But anyway, so I especially then want to spend some extra time with her today and whatever. So there probably won't be a companion video today. I'm probably going to save it for Monday. So that way I can take any of the questions that don't get answered on Monday morning's John Campea Show and any questions I don't get around to today. And then I can put that all in just one big video on Monday. So the next companion video will probably be on Monday. But a good question, fair question to ask. All right. Digoto1 writes, do you think we see Captain Marvel in one of the post-credit scenes in Infinity War? I'm actually going to guess no. I think there's let's put it this way. I think there's actually a bigger possibility that we see Captain Marvel in Infinity War than in the post-credit scene. I would actually put a higher percentage chance, and again, I don't know anything, I'm just guessing, but I would put a higher percentage chance that we see, Captain Marvel in Infinity War than in the post-credit scene. And going back now to Phil Lee's theory about maybe Hawkeye's on the search for her, that only makes me feel even stronger about that. So that's my thought. It's possible, but that's my thought. Digoto writes, do you remember the comic book you read? I remember many comic books I read. Digoto, sorry man, I'm not really clear on what it is you're asking, so I can't really intelligently answer it. Sorry about that, man. Duante Winston writes, that scene in the Infinity War trailer with Ebony Maw torturing Doctor Strange gave me chills. No kidding, man. That was horrific. And one of the things that really impressed me about that was if that was anybody getting tortured that way, it looks horrific. But remember, to me, it reminded me of the most horrible moment in Stephen Strange's life. Waking up in that hospital room and finding all those pins in his arms and hands, realizing that his life would never be the same again. It was the most devastating emotionally moment in Stephen Strange's life. And the fact that that torture sequence probably reminds Stephen of that moment. So it's not just physical torture, it's mental and emotional torture as well. And that's what really stood out to me about that. It's a terrific impact of a shot for many, many different reasons. It was such a great shot. And even the very horror film element of, chilling. Absolutely chilling. All right. Next one comes from Patrick Conway writes, Tom Von Lawler will kill as Ebony Maw. Well, I mean, look, it's obviously motion capture, but yes, I have a feeling that that character is going to be killer in this movie. I just think I already love what we've seen from him just in that one shot, man. So we'll see what else he's got going on there. Jacob Venko writes, director commentary for the anniversary. I did do a director commentary for the anniversary. I don't think I put it on the DVD though. Oh no, wait a minute. I did put it on the DVD. That's right. I originally released, for those of you who don't know, The Anniversary is this little romantic comedy that I made. And it was the first thing I ever did. I made it on like a budget of $50,000. It was just, I'm super proud of it. It's terrible by Hollywood standards. I mean, for sure, by Hollywood standards, it's terrible, but I'm super proud of it. I just got with a bunch of my friends, made the movie, took like a year and a half. Well, it took me like 2 years to write the script. And then it was like a year and a half from the moment that we started the pre-production planning, shooting it. We only shot for 11 days. And then the editing process and all that kind of stuff and getting the music rights. And one of the big reasons I made my own movie is not to be a big filmmaker by any stretch of imagination, but it was one of those bucket list things. Like everybody always says, I'm one of these guys that all the things that people say they want to do, I want to do it. Like everybody says they want to make their own movie. So I just went, you know what? I'm just going to do it. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to do it. And that was one of the big reasons I did it. But one of the other main reasons was I was, already doing the movie blog full time, which was my movie website that I sold years ago. And I always thought, you know what? I'm writing about movies. I'm writing about filmmakers. It would be really cool if I expanded my own understanding and gained a better appreciation for what it is these people do if I do it myself. And believe me, my appreciation for what directors do, directing my own film, went through the roof. When you try to do it yourself and you realize how difficult it is, it increases your appreciation for it. As a writer, it increased my appreciation. As an editor, it increased my appreciation. I didn't edit the film. I had another guy, a friend of mine who's a professional editor, and yes, his real name is Chuck Norris. And Chuck Norris actually edited the film, but with me there and all that kind of stuff. It increased my appreciation for editing. It increased my appreciation for everything. And that was one of the big things, was I wanted to be able to have a different perspective as a film pundit for doing it myself. But at any rate, the first way I released the anniversary was digitally. I released it on the streaming service that no longer exists. The streaming service no longer exists, but you could upload your video, and they set it up where people could rent the video, and you could even put in special features. And the first place I put a director's commentary was in that direct digital download service, and it was fun. It was really fun. I don't even know where it is anymore. I don't even know if I can find the damn thing. I'll see if I can find it. Maybe I'll make it available sometime. Thanks for asking me about that, Jacob. All right, next one comes to us from Chris Martin, who writes, have you had a Taco Bell breakfast crunch wrap? They are amazing. No, I have not. I have never eaten anything at Taco Bell with the word breakfast in it. But hey, like everybody else, I'm not, opposed to once in a while dropping in a Taco Bell and grabbing a burrito, but I probably have Taco Bell maybe twice a year. And the last 2 times I've gotten Taco Bell over the past 2 years is because Taco Bell is literally right beside where I go to get my haircut. And so if I'll go there, and if there's more than like a 20-minute wait, I'll walk next to the Taco Bell and grab something to eat. But I don't eat a whole ton of Taco Bell, but I enjoy it when I eat there. Let's see. Chris Martin then follows up with, can we please see Incredibles 2 now? I know, right? One of the other repercussions of getting that Infinity War trailer was, for some strange reason, I agree, it just kind of made me even more excited for Incredibles 2. I am dying to see that movie. I cannot wait for that movie to come out. I thought the trailer was great. Some people poo-poo on the Incredibles 2 trailer. I thought it was magnificent. I loved it. Sergio Mendoza writes, do you think Ant-Man and Hawkeye might be on a mission to find Captain Marvel, on a mission given by Nick Fury, maybe on a message since he's not in it? Well, again, that goes back to something Phil Lee also speculated. I don't know that Ant-Man... Actually, no, I don't believe Ant-Man is on it, because I believe we heard the actor who plays Hawkeye say that he's on a solo mission. So I don't think Ant-Man is with Hawkeye. I think Ant-Man's got his own secret stuff going on in the movie. But what it is, I don't know. We've seen Ant-Man in none of the marketing materials. But we know he's in the movie. So what's going on with Ant-Man? That is one of the biggest mysteries right now, for sure. All right. Next one comes to us from The Last Time Lord, who writes, will we get a sequel to The Rock's Hercules movie? No chance. No chance. No way. There's just too many other movies The Rock can do right now. He's writing his own ticket at the moment. I don't think he has any desire to go back to the Hercules movie. It did not do all that well. It wasn't all that good. So I don't know this for a fact. I'm just saying my opinion is I think there's like slim to none are the chances that we ever get a Hercules movie. I'll go none. I just don't think there's any scenario in which we get a Rock starring Hercules sequel. Maybe a sequel with another actor in a straight-to-DVD sort of thing, but no, I just can't see that happening. Ruda Gupta writes, Spielberg West Side Story remake. Thoughts? I don't know that anybody put the money behind it. And I don't know why they would. Hold a second. Let me pull something up. Just to do it again. Like, I just can't see how it's going to succeed, Like, this is a questionable decision for me. Like, why a studio would put the money... So I still have my doubts that it's even going to happen. I know they're saying it's going to happen, but I have my doubts it's even going to happen. Much like Spielberg's Robopocalypse. Like, that never happened. Now Michael Bay is directing it. There's been a number of films over the past, not as bad as, say, like a Guillermo del Toro, who's had like 85 different movies announced at some point, and he only ended up doing 2 or 3 of them. But Spielberg's had a couple of projects over the past 5 or 6 years that they announced he's going to do this next, and then it never actually worked out happening. I just don't see that this is going to happen. Let me just see if I can get information on this. Hold a second. Steven Spielberg. Okay, so yes, Spielberg apparently wants to do it. And apparently it's just one of those things I just don't know that it can actually happen. Because I just don't know that a company, specifically a distributor, is going to go, yeah, man, that's going to make us some money. I just don't see that happening. So I don't know. It's an odd announcement for me, especially with the success. It looks like from all the reviews that are coming in that Ready Player One is a real spectacle and people love it. It's like Spielberg getting back to Spielberg a little bit. It just feels funny that would be one up. I just don't see there being a big hunger or audience to want to see a West Side Story remake. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but we'll have to see how that all unfolds. Let's see. Carnell Boussard just sends in a big super chat to support the channel. Thank you so much, Carnell. That is amazing. Thank you for supporting the channel. And that's amazingly generous of you. Thank you so much. But man, you should have sent in a topic or a question as well, man. I would have spent the next 10, 15 minutes talking about it. Hell, I'll dedicate a whole episode to it. Geo writes, appreciate how the MCU always seems to take Hawkeye and web his character into big storylines in a way that's not ridiculous, such as in Civil War and Avengers Age of Ultron. Yeah, they do always find a good way to use Hawkeye. And to me, Hawkeye is probably the most expendable of the Avengers. But you're right, they've always found a really good way to use him in certain ways, understanding the nature of the character and who and what the character is. They find ways to capitalize on the strengths of the character and use them in impressive ways. So yeah, you're right. They really always do that. And I'm sure they're going to do the same thing for Infinity War. All right, let's go on to the next one. And the next one comes to us from Trevor Johnson, who writes, on the new Spidey suit, I think the reason that he's using it in Infinity War is because Tony has it with him as the ship is headed into space. Tony rushes to give Peter that iron spider suit so he doesn't die. I guess. Look, it's funny. I don't want to talk about this iron Spidey suit anymore so that people keep trying to throw these questions at me. Look, I don't like the idea of it at all. It's like, if that's the case, why doesn't he have an iron Black Widow suit with him, just in case Widow was the one that was there? Why doesn't he have an iron Hawkeye suit with him, just in case it's Hawkeye who has to go off into space? I mean, Spider-Man is a superpowered being, unlike Black Widow or Hawkeye. So I don't, you know, here's the thing. People keep asking the question about the iron spider suit. And so I answer it, but it makes people think, John, why do you just keep talking about this? Because people keep asking. But yeah, it may work out that way. Again, though, I just don't like the way that Marvel has handled Spider-Man as far as his costume goes. I just feel like they felt this need to make, for some reason, they feel the need that Spider-Man isn't cool. You know what? Spider-Man, he just doesn't resonate with people. People don't like Spider-Man. We got to find a way to make Spider-Man cool. Let's make him Iron Man. Let's make him Iron Man Jr. We'll give him the same thing with an iron suit that can do all these things. And it's got all these mechanisms in it. And it's got a built-in AI that talks to him and blah, blah, blah. It's Iron Man Jr. Otherwise, Spider-Man can't be cool. And it's like, I've never understood that line of thinking. Like, you let just Black Widow be Black Widow. You let Cap just be Cap. You let Hawkeye just be Hawkeye. Why not let one of the coolest superheroes of all time just be one of the coolest superheroes of all time in Spider-Man? Why is Spider-Man so uncool to you that you have to make him Iron Man Jr.? Anyway, that's just my thought, Trevor. I mean, it may very well unfold, Trevor, the way you're explaining it. Like, it's sound. Your premise is sound. The way you're presenting it, that this is how it will unfold, I still just don't like it. That's all. That's just me. Anyway, Luke1234 writes, would you rather be in a Star Wars movie directed by Steven Spielberg or sex with Jennifer Garner for a month with Anne's blessing? Well, first of all, Anne has already said I could have Jennifer Garner on my list. Are you listening, Jennifer? Yeah, she's heaving right now. Even the thought of that is making Jennifer Garner heave into a plastic bag somewhere right now. But aside from that, be in a Star Wars movie directed by Steven Spielberg? I'm taking that. I'm taking that. Yep. I'm taking being in a Star Wars movie. First of all, I would be in a Star Wars movie directed by Pauly Shore. Let's be honest here. Let's just be honest. But a Steven Spielberg directed Star Wars movie, you give me the option to be in that, like that over almost anything. I take that. Although you did a very good job digging up something that could poke at one of Campea's weaknesses for sure. But I'll go with the Star Wars movie with Spielberg. Jennifer Garner. Anyway, Pedro Garcia writes, best fight scene, Scotty versus Mr. Robardo. I'll be honest, every time with I don't remember it, so I can't even comment on it. 3C Films writes, love your work. You're an inspiration for small creators like myself. Oh, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. I am myself a small creator. If Infinity War sucks or is even underwhelming, what could that mean for Avengers 4? Keep up the quality content. Well, you know, I've kind of mentioned this before. Let's say, hey, look, it's a movie. Any movie could suck. Avengers, sorry, I know there's a lot of people who don't like to acknowledge this. Avengers could suck. Infinity War could suck. It could underwhelm. It could leave people unhappy. It totally could. I don't think that's likely. I think it's highly unlikely that that's the case, but it is possible. However, even if Avengers Infinity War, like say, just stumbles and falls, it's not great with the critics, not great with the fans, blah, blah, it underwhelms, all that kind of stuff. Doesn't matter. It's one film. Like, they've just had a streak of about like 7 or 8 highly praised, highly audience loved, highly financially successful films in a row. Oh well. If they put out one, look, the law of averages. Here's the thing, guys. Math is the one undefeated champion. Math doesn't lose. And the law of averages says at some point along the lines here, Marvel is going to put out one that disappoints. It's going to happen. It's going to happen at some point. And if that point happens to be Infinity War, oh well. It's one hiccup in a string of about 7 or 8 long roads of success. So you just brush it aside, learn what lessons you can, and just keep moving forward. Now, if you put out 3 bad in a row, or 4 out of the next 6 turn out being bad, then you're going to see Marvel probably circle the wagons, pull back, regroup, reassess where they're at, and maybe make some significant changes. But even if Infinity War comes out and it's terrible, it's not going to change a thing, because it'll just be one blip on the radar. And then they'll just keep moving forward. And you can't assume you're going to have success every single time. Not every single episode of the John Campea Show is amongst the most epic pieces of content ever created by mankind. I know it's hard to believe. I've put out bad episodes of the John Campea Show. Say it ain't so. It's so. It's so. It happens. Oh, and there goes my camera. It totally happens. And it will happen with Avengers. It will happen with the MCU. It is inevitable. It is unavoidable. And it's going to happen. But when it does, it's just going to be one bump in the road, and they'll move on, and they won't be affected by it at all. All right. Last of the Time Lords writes, with Count Dooku defeating Obi-Wan twice and holding his own with Yoda, do you think that Dooku is more powerful than Snoke or Kylo Ren or Palpatine? No, definitely not. First of all, he held his own momentarily with Yoda, but he realized he had to run away. Bravely ran away, away, Sir Robin. Anyway, so he had to run away. He knew he had to run away. And Yoda even like trash talked him. Did you catch that? Like, it sounded like he was but he was Yoda was trolling him by going, "Fought well you have, my former apprentice." It's like, you're a child, kid. This is like Yoda was just basically bashing, saying, "Oh, you fought well. Well done, but I'm about to kick your ass now." And it's like, so no, he had to eventually just turn around and run away. Palpatine beat Yoda. He straight up beat Yoda. And if Palpatine beats Yoda and Dooku had to turn and flee and run away from him, then you can't have an honest or serious conversation about Dooku maybe being as powerful as Palpatine. You just can't. Also, nowhere near as powerful as Snoke, and probably not as powerful as Kylo. So no, I'll peg him a little bit further down on the rung from that. All right, let's go. Next one up is TinSloth, who writes, Infinity War trailer, when you see Hulkbuster get dogpiled by evil aliens, Bruce is inside and he hulks out, busting out of the armor. It's funny, I was having a conversation with somebody last night, and that's the exact same thing that came up. Hold a second. Okay, that is kind of one of the things that came up in the discussion as well, is about, okay, what if that, Hulk, because the thought, some people are asking, is Hulk in that armor? Well, yes, in a way, because it's probably just Bruce in the armor. And maybe at that moment, he becomes Hulk again. Now, it's hard to imagine because we've already seen that shot in the one trailer where in Wakanda, Cap is leading the charge. He's got Black Panther there, Falcon, War Machine, Black Widow, all running beside. And Hulk is also running there as Hulk. So he's already Hulk. And that looks like it's the start of a battle because they're all there and ready and charge, and they all start running. So I don't know. That's the one hesitation to me, that either Banner or Hulk is in that Hulkbuster armor, because it looks like that happens a little bit later in the fight. And at the beginning of the fight, Hulk's already there, hulked out, running behind Captain America. So I don't know. There's a lot of really good theories out there. Again, the trailer answered some questions and it raised some questions, which I thought was really cool. All right, let's keep rolling here. The next one comes to us from Score Geek, who writes, my favorite performance of all time is the portrayal of Satan in Legend by Tim Curry. So regal and mesmerizing, he acted right through the costume. First of all, thank you for just bringing up Tim Curry. Tim Curry, of course, a lot of people started talking about Tim Curry again this year because it came out and Tim Curry played the original Pennywise in the TV miniseries. But whenever I think of Tim Curry, and some people will say Rocker Horror Picture Show, some people will say Clue. For me, I'm probably the only guy in the world who, when I think of Tim Curry, I think of that movie, that comedy movie he did with Arnold Schwarzenegger, with Sylvester Stallone, called, what's the name of it? Where Arnold Schwarzenegger, I keep on wanting to say Arnold Schwarzenegger, where Sylvester, it's a one-name movie. Stallone Snaps Provolone, where he plays a character. It's Oscar. That's the name of the movie. It's Oscar. And anyway, Sylvester Stallone plays this mobster. It's a comedy. It's a brilliant, wonderful comedy. And he plays a mobster called Snaps Provolone, who's a mobster, a head mob boss, whose father's dying wish is that he goes straight and becomes a legitimate businessman. And then it's a movie about him trying to take his whole family to become legitimate business people and getting out of the mafia. And it's the whole movie happens in about one day. At least 99% of the movie happens in one day, all in one house. Most of 99% of it happens in the house. And all the things that are going on this one important day of Snaps transitioning from being a mobster to a legitimate businessman. And Marissa Tomei plays his daughter in it. And anyway, Tim Curry plays Dr. Poole, who is like a vocal coach, if you will, about accents and words and vocabulary. And Snaps Provolone, who talks like a mobster, you know, he's hired Dr. Poole, played by Tim Curry, to be his voice coach, to teach him how to speak more eloquently and how to speak properly, because he wants to be a businessman and not a mobster anymore. And Tim Curry is yet just one of the reasons why I love that movie so much. And of course, his performance in Legend is great as well. But Tim Curry, I always love it when people want to bring up Tim Curry, and it always makes me think of Oscar. If you haven't seen Oscar, get it. It looks silly, it looks ridiculous, but it's so fast paced. It's like every beat has something funny going on, and I adore that movie. I absolutely adore that movie. It's like one of my hidden treasure favorites. Let's see, we just got a few minutes more here. Chris Martin writes, about a year to go to Florida. Unfortunately, I didn't make it to Orlando. There was a display of the Peter Pan costume and sword, and the hook from Steven Spielberg's film. I'm not following what you're saying. Let me read it. Maybe I'm just reading it wrong. Sorry, Chris. About a year ago to go to Florida. Unfortunately, I didn't make it to Orlando. There was a display of the Peter Pan costume and sword and the hook from the Spielberg film. I'm not quite sure where it is you went or what it is you're talking about specifically, Chris, but it sounds like a great experience that you had. I get a big kick out of whenever I get to see real movie products. Like, one of my favorite things ever was when I got to visit Skywalker Ranch, and I walked into one of the cottages. It was just, first of all, that was like one of my favorite experiences of all time, was getting to go visit Skywalker Ranch. But anyway, I walk into this one big cottage looking thing. And right there in the middle is this glass case. And in the case is the idol from the opening of Raiders of the Lost Ark. The one that Indy snatches and replaces with a bag of sand. It's sitting there, and it's the original one. And I'm like, oh. And right across from it in the same case is the actual whip that Harrison Ford used in those scenes in the original movie. And then there's, over in another case right beside it, is the original lightsaber that Mark Hamill used or got to hold in Obi-Wan's house. And it's just, when I get a chance to seeing replica stuff is cool. Like, a local theater here in Hollywood is like the ArcLight Hollywood. And they always have really great replica costumes in glass cases, and that's really cool. But when I get to see the original stuff, I just geek out over that. And if I had a chance to go in and see like Dustin Hoffman's Hook from Steven Spielberg's Hook movie, or Robin Williams' Peter Pan costume, and it was the original one, I would just geek out. I would totally geek out. Let's see. Okay. Forgive me, man. I'm going to do my best with your name here. I'm terrible with names. Here we go. Baran Idharan writes, hopefully I didn't completely kill it. John, they may be doing an Iron Spider now because there may not be an Iron Man left in the MCU post Infinity War or Avengers 4. Well, I mean, that's an interesting theory. That does Peter Parker become the new Iron Man? I can't see that happening. But that is definitely a different perspective to have on it. That maybe they're doing that because there's not going to be an Iron costume presence after Tony dies. But I still don't believe they're going to kill Tony off. I still don't believe it. Tony or Captain America. Even if they can't get Robert Downey Jr. to come back right now, or even if they don't think they can get Chris Evans to come back right now, I still don't think they'll close the door on that. I'll think they keep the door open on them coming back sometime and just ending it some other way. I just don't see them killing those characters off. I could be totally wrong about that. I'm not saying take that to the bank. I could be completely wrong about that, but I just feel like they won't do that. Jordan Miller, just time for just a couple more here. Jordan Miller writes, hey, John, have you seen the... Oh, yes, I've never known how to pronounce it, though. Meyerowitz stories with Adam Sandler. Dustin Hoffman's in that as well. If you like father and son dramas, I think it might hit home with you. Made me cry. Yeah, I was really late to the party on that one because it came out and at least a good month passed and I hadn't seen it. And a bunch of people kept telling me to watch it. It was quite good. There were some people saying, like, Adam Sandler can get an Academy Award nomination for that. I didn't think he was that good, but I did think he was very good in it. And Dustin Hoffman's Dustin Hoffman, but... I thought he was very good in it. Not necessarily Academy Award worthy, but yeah, it was a good one for sure. All right. Don Ronald Lim writes, why release Dumbo, Aladdin, and Lion King all in 2019? Why not? Why not? As long as they're not coming out on the same week, I don't see what the problem is. Like, seriously, in the question, why? The question would be, why not? What would be the purpose of not putting them out in the same year? Again, it's not like they're all coming out 1 week after each other and they're going to affect each other's box office. So that's not a problem. That's not going to happen. I mean, you're going to put out movies that year. Why not put out those movies that year? I don't see why not. As a matter of fact, if Dumbo is good and if Aladdin is good and if Lion King is good, they could all just feed on each other's success. So I just don't see a valid reason why not do it in the same year. You know what I'm saying? Like, whenever people ask me, and it's a totally fair question, but whenever people ask me, why did they do this, whatever it is? Why did they do this? I usually follow it up with, well, why not? What's the argument for not doing it that way? Because I don't see a downside to doing it that way. So quite often, and I know that can frustrate people. I understand that. But usually when people ask me why, my first response is, why not? What's the argument for doing it a counter way? So that's kind of how I feel about this one myself. All right, thanks for sending in the question, Don. Next one comes to us from Last of the Time Lords, who writes, what are your thoughts on the Denzel Washington movie, Two Guns, and will we get a sequel? Because I love this movie. Is that the one he did with Marky Mark? Hold a second. I can't remember off the top of my head. Denzel Washington, Mark Wahlberg. What was the name of the movie they did together? Yeah, that is the one. The one. Yeah, I thought it was okay. Obviously, it was not that incredibly memorable to me that I couldn't even pull it off the top of my head. I thought it was all right. I don't think a sequel is needed or warranted. I don't think it did all that great at the box office, if I'm remembering it correctly. The film came out like 5 years ago or something like that. It kind of very quietly came and went. Yeah, and you know what? I think I only saw it the once. So, and it clearly didn't stick with me all that much because I could barely even remember. Was that the one he did with Wahlberg? Yeah, it was the one he did with Wahlberg. It was okay. It was okay. Not a bad film, but I don't see them doing a sequel to it. And I personally, hey, that's awesome. If you loved it and you're looking forward to maybe them doing a sequel, I would not be jumping up and down hearing that they're doing a sequel to it. That's just my personal opinion. All right, Jeremiah J. writes, yeah, I am a 29-year-old man that becomes a 9-year-old watching the Infinity War trailer. Oh, the magic of comics. Man, it's the magic of movies, and I'm with you. I watched that trailer, like whether it's that or a Star Wars trailer, something like that, just something that roots things that have roots to the things that have let me try that again. It's early. Things that have brought me joy since childhood, seeing it manifest in such an amazing way, it just makes my heart happy. It just makes my heart happy. And we transition, like, some people think they're cool, right? And they see me getting so excited about like a new Star Wars trailer, or about a new comic book movie trailer, whether it's Justice League or Infinity War or something, and I get all excited and all happy. People go, oh, grow up, man. It's just a movie. So you know what? Shut the fuck up. If you want to be miserable, go sit in the corner and eat your soup, all right? It's bringing me joy. And if you can't understand that and you don't see the value in something like art bringing joy, stories bringing joy, we as a species are based on being storytellers. From the earliest days of drawing paintings on cave walls to today using our phones to shoot stories, we are storytellers, man. Stories bring joy and happiness and excitement and fear and dread. They're things about eliciting human emotion. That's what stories are, man. And I feel bad for you if you think the enticement of emotion and joy or happiness or whatever from art is somehow a bad thing. Just shut the fuck up and eat your soup, all right? Just go crawl into a corner somewhere. It's cool if they don't make you happy, but you got to sit there and criticize other people for feeling joy? Really? You feel good about yourself criticizing other people for daring to feel joy over something that a piece of art elicited out of them, out of a storyteller's, work eliciting an emotional response for us. And you got to criticize that? Those people I've never understood. And I just usually just shut those people out. But you're right, man. Again, it returns me to my childhood. I just feel so excited watching. And that trailer is definitely one of the things that did that. All right. Last question of the day. Listen, guys, I've run out of time, but listen, if you have a question that you've sent in that I did not get around to, don't worry, on Monday's companion video that'll go up Monday afternoon, all your questions that are still sitting here right now will get answered, all right? So just make sure you come back for the companion video on Sunday, or on Monday, I should say. All right, and the final question today comes to us from Jeremiah J., who writes, why do some Hollywood stars, for instance Jodie Foster, poo-poo on comic book movies? Is there a negative stigma in Hollywood? If so, do you see that stigma being magnified with all this positive attention for Marvel movies for audiences? Well, it's important to understand that the few people like a Jodie Foster, and I adore Jodie Foster. I'm a big Jodie Foster fan. I think the things she said about comic book movies were idiotic, but we all say idiotic things sometimes, me included, you included. So that doesn't change my overall high opinion of Jodie Foster. I have a very high opinion of her as a director, as an actor, all that kind of stuff. But let's not confuse that a few people expressing their jealousy, because that's really what it all comes down to. It's jealousy. And we all have it. But why are people paying attention to those movies and not mine? I mean, really, that's probably the core of it. I mean, I don't know Jodie Foster personally. I can't say that is the real root cause of it. But, when she says things like, we're conditioning audiences, just, you know what? No. You're making movies that audiences love. And you're just pissed off that audiences love them. And how dare you criticize the audience for loving something? So no, but I don't think it's a widespread problem in Hollywood. Because guess what? The hundreds of millions of dollars that Black Panther is earning is what's funding Disney to make their smaller, more artistic films. Like a lot of these indie films that get made and smaller budget films that get made, they get financed by the success of the bigger films like this. It's a symbiotic relationship. But anyway, I really don't see it as a big problem in Hollywood. It's a localized one. It's a smaller one. It doesn't reflect the attitudes of everybody in Hollywood. It's just a few people that seem to speak out like that. And to me, it just comes across, whether this is where it's really coming from or not is a different question. But to me, it comes across, I perceive it as somebody just being, bitter that their movies that maybe artistically are much better than some of these comic book movies, but the comic book movies are the ones that get all the attention. And if you're an artist that's worked in that field your whole life, you could probably understand a little bit of resentment. You could probably understand that, a place where that could come from a certain place of resentment. I get it, so I'm not going to poo-poo on them too much. Anyway, guys, that will do it for all the time I have today for this special little Saturday installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for joining me. Listen, guys, if you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Click the thumbs up on this video. Share it around if you like. Make sure you're following me on Twitter, simply at John Campea. And guys, you saw a couple of people who were Patreon supporters. My Patreon supporters First of all, they are constantly messaging me on Facebook. They're constantly sending in emails. They are kind of the lifeblood of the John Campea Show and the John Campea channel. This channel only exists because of my Patreon supporters. Do me a favor. If you're somebody who likes watching my programming, head on over to patreon.com/John Campea. Check out the page. Get all the information about what it means to be a Patreon supporter, how being a Patreon supporter keeps this show alive, and also what benefits there are to being a Patreon supporter, like audio-only podcasts, special behind-the-scenes videos, the Facebook group, which is amazing because of our members there, and maybe you can become a Patreon supporter as well. But also to thank you to all you guys who do send in super chats, because your super chats not only get your question on the show, but it's a great tangible way to support my show. Thank you so much for supporting it that way. All right, guys, that will do it for me for this installment of the John Campea Show. I'll be back again tomorrow. My name's John Campea, and until my next video, bye-bye.